ChatGerry, a hypothetical case study of infectious disease strain associated with certain environmental pollution using the VPT model, number 1516, VPT 073, January 29, 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation. Environmental Science. Introduction. I recently heard a news report about an agricultural town where people were experiencing an unusual rise in infectious illness. The report suggested a possible link to environmental pollution, especially polluted water. That story made me pause and ask a simple question: can we use math and physics, not just biology and chemistry, to understand how environmental problems slowly turn into disease? To protect privacy, I intentionally kept this study general. I did not name any town, disease, or pollution source. All data used here are hypothetical and created only to illustrate a method. My goal is not to investigate or blame anyone. My goal is to show how a math-physics-based medical research approach can help us understand environmental disease before it becomes irreversible. I believe that everything we can see, touch, and measure in the physical world follows mathematical theories and basic physical laws. This does not stop at machines or buildings. It applies to the human body, to environmental steam, and to community health. Organs respond to stress in predictable ways. Biomedical systems weaken over time when stress continues. Disease often develops slowly, not suddenly. Guided by this belief, I have written nearly 1,000 medical research papers using my VPT, Viscoplastopology framework. In simple terms, this VPT framework combines three ideas. Physics explains resistance and flow. Engineering explains permanent damage after repeated stress. Mathematics explains long-term patterns and shape. Together, these three ideas help explain how small problems, when repeated or ignored, slowly turn into lasting harm. Modern medicine does an excellent job describing biology and chemistry, but it often treats math and physics as optional tools, used mainly through statistics. This makes it difficult to see how damage accumulates over years and decades. Trying to understand complex disease using biology and chemistry alone is like trying to support a tall building with only 2 columns. It may stand for a while, but it lacks stability. A strong structure needs at least 3 supports. My medical researcher work rests on mathematics, physics including engineering, and biology including pathology and physiology. Biology tells us what is happening. Math and physics explain why it happens, how fast it happens, and when damage becomes permanent. This paper is a practical example of what I call math-physical medicine (MPM). It builds on my earlier work on the missing role of math and physics in traditional medical thinking and training. It is not criticism. It is a reminder that without mathematical structure and physical reasoning, many long-term environmental or individual health problems remain only partially understood. Water pollution and infectious disease. Poor water quality can lead to many types of infectious illness. The severity depends mainly on 2 things: how polluted the water is, and how long people are exposed to it. When water becomes heavily polluted over a short time, sudden outbreaks can occur. People may develop vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, and fever within days. This often happens after fertilizer runoff, animal waste leakage, or flooding that contaminates drinking water. These outbreaks are sharp and noticeable, but often short-lived. When water is moderately polluted for many years, the damage is quieter. Instead of sudden outbreaks, people experience repeated stomach problems, fatigue, poor digestion, and slow recovery. These symptoms come and go, making them easy to ignore, but they slowly wear down health. In areas where water systems are poorly maintained, infections can spread through shared water use. When filtration and monitoring are weak, illness can persist without clear warning signs. VMT results in plain language using hypothetical data. I applied my viscoplastic medicine theory VMT model to understand how 3 environmental factors work together over time. These 3 influential factors are pollution level, exposure duration, and weakness of the water protection system. I used a disease strain index, or DSI, as the output strain, which is a calculated measure of total health pressure on a population. For decades, all 3 stress factors increased, but not at the same rate. As a result, disease burden did not rise steadily. It accelerated later. Early on, Rising pollution caused only small increases in illness. The community could still recover. This is the elastic stage. As exposure continued and protection weakened, the same amount of added stress caused much larger increases in disease. The system lost its ability to absorb damage. This is the plastic stage. Later, disease continued to rise even when pollution increased only slightly. Damage built on top of damage. Recovery became unlikely. When I measured total accumulated damage, most of it appeared after many years, not at the beginning. This shows why early warning matters. Each factor contributed about 1/3 of total damage. Pollution alone did not explain disease. Long exposure and weak protection were just as important. In simple terms, pollution adds stress, time allows damage to accumulate, and weak systems prevent recovery. Taught a view of the same problem. He also examined the same data using a shape-based view called topological data analysis (TDA). The radar chart shows how all three stress factors grow together. The shape expands evenly, not in one direction. This means no single influential factor dominates. The 3D scatter plot shows a clear path moving away from a healthy state. The system does not wander randomly. Once it moves toward danger, it keeps going. The environment remembers its past damage. Like many serious diseases, early changes appear small, later changes seem sudden, but the damage has been building quietly the entire time. Together, TDA shows where the system is going. VMT explains why it is being pushed there. Conclusion: this paper is a warning system template. Instead of reacting to outbreaks, we can monitor rising disease strain and act before permanent damage occurs. Looking at health over time is like watching a movie instead of staring at a single photograph. Recommendations to policymakers: environmental disease is not random. It is a predictable process. 3 factors matter equally: pollution strength, exposure time, system weakness. If policy addresses only one, disease will continue. Early action is cheaper and more effective. Once damage becomes permanent, costs persist for decades. Strengthening water infrastructure is one of the most direct ways to protect community health. Preventing disease is far more effective than treating damage after systems fail. This is true for communities, just as it is true for individual patients. Epilogue: I did not write this to impress or to alarm. I wrote it because damage often arrives quietly. It hides behind routine and delay. By the time it becomes visible, foundations have already shifted. This is not about one town or one illness. It is about invisible tipping points. It is about how stress accumulates and how recovery fades. I offer this work to those who still believe in foresight, to doctors who listen beyond symptoms, to engineers who recognize slow failure, to policymakers who understand that infrastructure is care made visible. Even a single person speaking clearly and honestly can make a difference. Do not underestimate your role. Your voice counts. Disclaimer: write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is for educational reference only and is not medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this work freely, but it must not be altered or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights belong to the author, Gerald C. HSU. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.